Alright, ladies and gentlemen, rev up your engines and set your time machines to 1932. Today we're diving into the tale of the Rikuo RT2, a motorcycle with a story so wild it makes the Fast and the Furious look like a Sunday drive. This is the bike that started as a Harley-Davidson, became a military workhorse, and ended up a rare collector's dream bike. So buckle up, this is going to be a fun ride. Alright guys, hey, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Steve Sleepy, and today this video is going to be a pretty good time, man. I feel like I'm fairly versed in motorcycles, been riding for a really long time. I love everything from mini bikes to Harleys, sport bikes to dirt bikes, scooters, anything with two wheels I've basically owned, currently own, or at least are interested in. So this week I came across this article about this Japanese Harley-Davidson, and I had never heard of it. And considering that I've been on a podcast for 10 years where I'm with probably 8 of the most knowledgeable motorcycle guys I've ever met, we've never discussed it as far as I remember. I'm sure some of the guys know about it, but I certainly didn't. So I figured if I didn't, some of you probably don't either. So hey, let's do a video. To the guys that know about this, hey man, congratulations. Throw a comment, and if I miss anything, let us know what we missed on it. To the rest of you that are like me, this is really neat. So let's get into it. Alright, our story begins in the land of the rising sun, way back in the early 1930s. Japan was eager to make its mark in the motorcycling world, but instead of designing their own bike from scratch, they did something, let's call it efficient. They licensed Harley-Davidson's designs. They used their tooling, and they started churning out their own version of the American classic. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Rikuo, Japan's very own Harley, just minus the stars and stripes. You see, back in the day, Harley-Davidson was the undisputed king of motorcycles, and Japan thought, why reinvent the wheel? So in 1929, the Sankyo company secured a deal to manufacture Harley-Davidson motorcycles under license. Production started promptly in 1932, and by 1935 the operation was fully under Japanese control. The name Rikuo translates to Land King, a pretty ambitious title for a Harley-Davidson knockoff, don't you think? Alright, let's get into the technicalities of this little guy, and excuse my reading, but I want to make sure I get these facts right. So it was a 45-degree V-twin side-valve air-cooled engine, equated to 747 cc's, which is 45 cubic inches here in the States. It had a massive, unbelievably whopping 22 horsepower at 4,250 RPMs. It had another massive whopping 29 foot-pounds of torque at 3,000 RPMs. Electrical was 6 volts like all the bikes back then with a battery and a coil. It had a carburetor obviously. Ignition was a generator and a battery. Starting the bike, kick only like all the bikes back then. It had a chain-driven primary that went to a 4-speed transmission and a chain final drive. Now, bike wasn't breaking any sound barriers at a blistering 97 kilometers an hour, which equates to about 60 miles an hour. And it had a hardtail frame. It had a hand-shifted gearbox, and unbelievably, even with the Japan one, it had enough chrome on it to blind oncoming traffic, so they didn't leave out the style on this thing. I made the joke about a knockoff, but the Rikuo wasn't just a copy. It was a proper production bike with a real market in Japan. It was used by civilians, police, and delivery riders. But its true calling came when the Japanese military realized, hey, this thing would look great with a sidecar and a machine gun. Enter the Type 97, the military version of the Rikuo. These rugged motorcycles were produced between 1937 and 1942, with about 18,000 units rolling off the assembly line. Picture this, a soldier in full uniform, goggles on, gripping the handlebars with a fully armed passenger in the sidecar. It was basically the original fast attack vehicle, just without the speed. The Type 97 became a staple for the Japanese military, used for reconnaissance and transporting troops. Though let's be honest, it probably wasn't the stealthiest vehicle on the battlefield with that V-twin potato. After the war, things got a little complicated. Japan's military operations were, well, let's just say restructured, and Rikuo shifted to producing bikes for police and civilian use. By the 1950s, Japanese brands like Honda, Yamaha, and Kawasaki were emerging with their own innovative designs, leaving the Rikuo feeling like a relic of a bygone era. Production limped on until 1958 when the last Rikuo rolled off the line. So the next time you see a vintage motorcycle that looks like a Harley, but there's just something weird about it, take a second look. It might just be a Rikuo, the Japanese king of the road that took the scenic route through history. Alright, I hope you guys learned something. I certainly did. I had a lot of fun looking this up. I had no idea this bike existed, and it's always fun to put a little more knowledge up in the old thinker. So hey, if you enjoyed yourself, throw me a subscribe and a like if you can, and we got a whole bunch of cool stuff coming up. So make sure you check back real soon, and remember, if it works, it ain't dumb.